Good morning, YouTubians. Well, we've got the latest victim for the bench today. This is the first McCulloch I will ever work on. And we've got the PM 605, which I think is Pro Mac. It's a little guy, but it's still vintage, and I still think that it's worth resurrecting. So that's what we're going to attempt. Some of the first things that I look at are right here. How was this saw treated before it came to me? Let's see if we can get a little bit better light on this situation here. So I try to look at the bar, and it looks like that bar got hot. You can see pretty good signs of heat actually right here. The chain's nice and loose on it. So this is going to make me want to take the clutch cover off, have a look at the clutch, see how hot that got. I should start by saying that the owner of the saw complained that it just does not run anymore. So I'm hoping that it may be sat and that it's a carburetor kit or it's a fuel delivery issue. We're going to test all of that. It does appear at least to have pretty good compression still. The saw will basically hang by the cord. So either the bearings are totally roached or they still might be in good shape. Yeah, she still pulls over, but good compression. So we'll figure out what's going on with her. First things first though. Pretty sweet to have a shop with one of those in it. Say it pops. First things first, let's actually get to see this a little bit better. I'll get back to you once I clean this up some. Yeah, I wish there was such thing as smell-o-vision. If you stuck your nostrils in there, it smells a lot more like something you might want to finish furniture with rather than something you'd want to power a motor with. So I'm gonna give it a little bit of that. Slosh it around, see if I get some of that jelly out of there. And that being said, I don't know what the rest of the fuel system looks like, but it's probably gummed up. Well, even if it did run, I would suspect we didn't have much luck cutting much of anything. That is, you could run that chain backwards and be more productive. And if you look at the side profile, this guy's never seen the videos about getting the gullet. That's okay. Not everybody's been that fortunate. Thankfully, though, let me zoom out here a skosh. So, looking at the clutch, I don't see any blue. So miraculously, the clutch, I don't believe, has been hot. And when I try to get any sort of lateral movement, it seems like the bearing's in pretty good shape. We'll know more when I get further into this. But those are some indicators that I look for right off the bat. What do the bar and chain look like? If a saw quits running and the chain is super dull and the bar is about burnt off of it, pretty decent indicator that when you take the muffler off, you're going to see some signs of heat in there as well. Now, before I go tearing into this, I might see if I can squirt a little fuel straight in the throat, and if it barks off, we know we've got some sort of chance. So yeah, as we get a little bit further along here, that's not a great sign. That's real white looking. You want to see a nice chocolate brown, or black would even be better than that. That shows signs that she was running pretty lean. So we might end up taking that muffler off yet and get a look at that piston and see what we're working with here. I'm going to test for spark first, just to see what we've got. That'll be easy enough to do, hopefully, to start with. Never used one of these contraptions before, but there's no real good place to try to ground a spark plug. This is hard plastic without ripping way into this thing. This is supposed to be a spark tester. So I've got it plugged into the spark plug boot, and then following up around, I've got it grounded to the case. So it should make a good ground. I'll hold that for me and film. I'll give it a couple cranks. We are seeing absolutely not much of anything. And by that, I mean nothing. Nada. So that said, we're going to pull the recoil off. Take a look at the ignition. Maybe it just needs to be cleaned. Maybe it needs to be readjusted. I'll just show you guys some of the fun of dealing with these McCullochs. Even the newer ones, which this one is. I believe this is a late 80s saw. These Macs got about 72 different fasteners you got to deal with pulling this apart. So I pulled the recoil off. You can see our flywheel. I suspect that I've never worked on a saw like this before, so I suspect our ignition is going to be here. So I'm thinking that I need to remove these 4 Allens. And we've got a flathead here, sneak around down, there's one over here. And I believe this plastic piece I can then pull off and it'll give me better exposure to my flywheel. I don't think I have to take my tank out. We're going to find out. So here's part of the fun of being a blind guy. These are not Allens, these are the, the threaded holes that took the screws that hold the recoil on. So it looks like I've got these 3 flatheads to remove. Right there, there, and probably there. Yep. Yeah, these Macs are definitely a jigsaw puzzle. Try not to ruin my light here, but in order to get to my ignition, the whole fuel tank comes off. So I got those screws out, but I'm going to need to disconnect my fuel line in here from my carburetor. Let me see if I can get some better light happening here. Oh yeah. So all I'm going to do is take my flathead screwdriver, get in here, push off my fuel line, and it's going to come back through the body of the saw, and then this whole piece will be free so I can get into the flywheel and ignition and see if maybe we can clean it up. So getting in here, looking at the recoil or the ignition, it's a real good chance this just needs to be cleaned up. This thing is just absolutely filthy. It's a good idea every time you use a saw while it's still fresh, before everything turns to concrete, to blow them out real good. But even this portion in here was covered up pretty good by the recoil cover over there, so pretty hard to keep this one nice and clean. I'm going to take this apart, clean it up, give it a little sandpaper, and see if we can get some lightning out of it. So this guy over here, tending fire, looks over here and asks me a very relevant question. It's real hard for an ignition to make any kind of fire when your kill switch is off. So we're going to try it in that position. This all need to get cleaned out anyway, so I meant to do that. But anyway, I'm going to put it back together. We're going to put that spark tester back on it, and I bet we're probably going to see something. So I figured since we got this far anyway, because I meant to do that 100%, because I knew this coil was going to be filthy in here, so that's why I knew I should leave the switch off and not think I had spark to get this deep, to make sure I went ahead and cleaned that up too. The flywheel contacts actually look real good. We'll clean this up and put everything back together. All right, all you die-hard Mac guys out there, I don't know if a business card is the correct spacing between your coil and your magnetic contacts on the flywheel, but that's how I'm going to do it. That's how I've done every other saw. I think that's might be kind of a universal with electronic ignition, but if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments if I can talk today. Yeah, that's right where we're going to tighten her down, just like that. All right, we got everything tightened down. And by eyeball, I'm seeing equal spacing between our two contacts here. Make a full revolution or a couple with the flywheel. Not making contact, so we'll reassemble, see if we got spark. All right, guys. Switch on in the on position so that it will run. Good fire. So we've got sparkage. Next in line, fuel delivery. I think we might start. I noticed our fuel line. It's a proprietary gig that goes through the case of the saw and into the fuel tank here. So worst case scenario, I might be able to thread some Tygon through there. It's not going to make the seal the way that it should. I'm going to try to use what we've got to start with. I'll put a new fuel filter in. I think I'm going to start by just, if I can find something where I can get a little bit of fuel in here and see if it just barks a little bit.